I wanted to show you what's on the table. So a witch's garden on a budget and connecting with your sense of place, your actual locality, really important for connecting with the spirit of place. I just think gardening is just such a fantastic witchy practice to feel connected. Isn't that right, Rupert? And you, Lulu? So how to do it on a budget. So I grow from seed, I split plants. If I see a wild plant, I'll take one of them and bring it back, which is what I've done with all the fox and cubs, which are now, as you've seen, spreading all over the garden. But another great way is to look on the sale rack of garden centres. Now, I've just come back from B&M because I had to go down and get some back rub for my son who's got a bad back at the moment. I always have a little look at the plants. There are some beautiful plants down there, all kind of £6, £7, £10 a pop. That soon mounts up. So instead I go to the sale rack, and you can see like the type of things that I get. Like this is a teeny tiny little alpine which should have been £3, 50 pence. That is going to be brilliant to try and grow in wall crevices, and if I can get that established, that's one that I'll be able to split and spread. 50 pence. This should have been £5 and it was down to a pound. Look at these gorgeous purple flowers on this. It is a perennial. I don't bother buying sale if they're bedding plants or annuals, it's just not worth it. But if it's a perennial, which means it's going to come back year after year, then yes, I will. I mean, look at this chrysanthemum. Should have been £6.50 and it's down to £1.50, and all it needs, it just needs deadheading. The growth underneath is fine, it just needs deadheading for £1.50. This plant here has what looks like these beautiful purple flowers as well. This amazing waxy foliage as well. Again, a perennial. It's called Iberis Mermaid. I mean, if you were going to do sort of water magic, you could use this plant for that, like connecting with mermaids. It was £6.50, now £1.50, just because the flowers are over. I've got salvia. Now salvia is a fantastic plant to grow. Each of these, I've got 3 of these, 1, 2, 3. Should have been £6.50 each, down to £3.25 each, so all half price. That's another one that I can split and spread around the garden once it's established. I just need to get more plants in, because at the top of the garden there is such an expanse of unplanted beds that the weeds just keep coming back, and I just keep doing the same job over and over. So I am at the minute this year just trying to get more plants in. I also wanted more fruit up in the vegetable garden. These are raspberry canes, were £3.50 each, now down to £1.50. So I've got a couple of raspberry canes to plant. Now this beauty at the back wasn't in the sale, and you can kind of see the difference. It's a lot more kind of seductive, isn't it, to buy one like this. So this is the tall verbena, which used to grow on my allotment. It's got this absolutely gorgeous multi-flower head. Can you see that? I think verbena is absolutely stunning. And look, you can see it's got shades of blue and purple. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful plant. And I've loved the verbena I bought that I put in with the strawberries. And I know this will spread because it was all over the allotment that I used to have. And I've really wanted this plant back. The verbenas I bought that are in with the strawberries, let me show you, they're slightly different, but they're also completely wonderful. If I take you up here, I'll show you what the other verbena look like. So here are all the other verbena. They're looking fantastic. So there's a dark purple one, and this amazing pink one which is really coming to its own. Underneath here, this plant under here, there was another verbena in here, which was the multicoloured one, which has finished flowering now. Did you see that moth just fly down? Look at that. Look at that moth that just flew down. Isn't that just beautiful? It's probably going to eat my plants, but hey ho, I'm growing for all of us, so that's fine. Wherever I go, this duck stands there. Yeah, so the verbena has just been so gorgeous. I'll show you what I mean by just the amount of spare space that I've got, that just, it needs plants in, because it's just taking too much weeding because it's not planted. Look, this was all weeded not so long ago, like a few garden arcanas ago, and the stingers are coming back. These beds were clear. Look at that bed already back. If that had plants in, the weeds wouldn't be able to come back like that. Let's show you what's going on up here. Wort. Can you see why I let that go? Isn't that just so pretty? It's just so pretty against the fence. Absolute weed. Look, there's a patch of it down there which I'm trying to get to grow. I must be the only person that spreads weeds around the garden. Now this, which I've forgotten the name of, is just about to flower. I am going to leave this one, but I think I'm going to take this one out once it's flowered, because it's just a little bit too much. So look, here we've got Nipplewort and Hedgewort down at the bottom. That's the one that I thought was self-heal, which isn't self-heal. Embracing wildflowers is another way to absolutely cut costs in a garden. So these beds here and this bed here, I would like to get this part of the garden sorted this year, but it is just going to mean plants. You can see all the fox and cubs now has gone over. What I might do is grab some of these seeds and spread them around the garden again, like put some at the top of the garden, because that's the way to, you know, just get them coming everywhere. The strawberries have been great this year. We've been getting at least a bowl of strawberries a day. Yeah, you can see where there are plants in this bed that the weeds haven't come back as much. So here, this was the peony at the top of the garden, which I split. These were plants I planted last year. This was a cutting, and I'm not sure what it is. This was a cutting from a friend. I did throw a load of feverfew seeds in, and I don't know whether that's them coming, but the feverfew is giving me issues over the last few years. I keep losing it, which I'm really sad about because I love it. But anyway, the Nipplewort, if anybody tells you to pull wildflowers out, yeah, they're not fancy, but they're meant to be here. And look how beautiful they are. Look how beautiful they are. I just think they're absolutely stunning, completely free. They're a weed, they're going to self-seed everywhere. Look, they're over there too. And they're over here, look. They're just growing in gravel that gets trampled by the dogs. It's just completely stunning. It needs a little bit more order brought to it, but I'm not touching this. I think it's beautiful. So embrace the wild. Isn't that what witchcraft gardens should be about anyway? I mean, you can see the corners that I haven't got to, but look, again, you've got the wild grass, you've got Nipplewort, you've got Herb Robert, which is completely wild, which I love. All of that is free. It doesn't matter if the dog goes chomping on the grass because it's wild and free. Oh my gosh, look, you can't even see the path. So, embrace the wild. When it gets too much, which is what this is, then just go for a few plants, get some plants, get them in the sale. I just spotted, look, do you remember that bramble I left with Hanged Man energy, and I said that will give me blackberries if I leave it? Can you see all the blackberries coming? That's fantastic. Look at that, they're all just coming out of their blossom. That you can see the stages, the blossom, then this furriness, and then the fruit coming from underneath. That's going to be fantastic. Blackberries are so expensive at the moment, so that's really exciting that they're all the way down here as well. Just leaving that one bramble. It's my hanged man bramble. There's some more of that nipplewort growing there, again self-seeded, as is all of this mustard garlic, wild mustard garlic. That grows in my woodland as you walk in, and I just let that grow. Other things in the garden, people are always throwing out recycling bins. Grab those, get earth friendly. It's just a fantastic way to connect and to support Mother Earth. All of the structures in the garden, like the gates, the pagoda surrounds over there, all of the raised beds here, all made by myself with reclaimed pallets, all free wood. Again, free benches, too rotten to sit on, but brilliant to lift plants up into the sun. Bedsteads. How many times do you drive down the road and see somebody's thrown out a metal headboard or bedstead for the scrap man to pick up? I always stop and collect it. I always ask first, knock the door. Nobody ever minds. Like metal that I've got for the garden, I got this from the side of the road. All the bedsteads from the side of the road. Other metal, let's have a look. Okay, in here, can you see this? This was on the side of the road. There's another bedstead there, which I've got balanced there to stop Rupert jumping on the gate. That was on the side of the road. This, if the dogs will move, this old-fashioned push-along mower, which doesn't work, but I've got to mosaic on the side of the road. This old watering can down here, which I want to make a sculpture out of, I found in the hedge. Mirrors, all off Freeside. That mirror there is to stop the dog from pushing through the hedge where he used to push through. He can't get in now because I built all these fences. Kids' toys as well. These are actually my kids' toys, but if you wanted to set up like toy sculptures that have meaning or that you could use for spellcraft, then, you know, charity shops do toys really cheap. All of these fences were made from pallets that I reclaimed. These were from reclaimed serviettes that somebody was throwing out. Even the PVA that went over the top was a big tub of PVA that somebody was throwing out and I picked up free. So you can see there's a lot of fences that I've built. As with this pagoda, now this used to house the hot tub, which I might put back up as a cold plunge pool in there, to be honest. But all of this was built with free wood. These were absolutely broken and falling apart and given to me by somebody that was just taking them to the tip. I refixed them and painted them. These are free pallets. The only wood I bought were these uprights around the top. Tyre stacks. Again, free mirrors. That was a free pot. Free sculptures. This pagoda up here is my friend's broken gazebo she'd put in the skip. A pallet wall to put things on. There's a cauldron there. Free. Pallets to make fences. Free. Tyre stacks from the tip. Free. You're getting the gist of it. Bricks. Free. More pallets on their side. Free. Collected mirrors that people are throwing out. Free. Fancy wall cladding. Free. Those are all of that wall cladding are these horizontals here. This is a Frida homage for art witchery with napkins on a free pallet. Things that people are throwing out free. A collection wall with toys that were all bought for like 10 pence and 50 pence. Pots that was part of my haul. This found at the side of the road, completely full of holes, but I lined it with an old bag from compost. Now I can plant it up. It's got this amazing reed growing in it, which is just so happy in that little corner. All free. The garden over here, garden chairs free, people throwing them out. Sculptures free, planters in the shape of penny farthings, a homage to my dad, ancestor work there, free. These were food delivery baskets that the people wouldn't take back because I'd left them on the drive and they said they were dirty. They said I had to keep them. I piled them all up and used them as planters to make this raised bed. This was a cracked paddling pool that somebody was about to throw into the big skip at the tip, which I grabbed free. The trellis at the back, somebody was getting rid of on free cycle, free. So you can see literally the infrastructure and the decoration of the garden, and a lot of the plants in the garden are free. Even like the circular stepping stones I picked up on free cycle. That was an old barbecue that somebody was throwing out. More of these food recycling baskets that they left me with. A big pot that I found in the hedge. All the bricks that edge the lawn, picked up on free cycle. The table with a broken umbrella somebody was throwing out. Another person was throwing out the umbrella base, so I eventually got an umbrella set. This here, somebody had broken up a patio and put on free cycle broken slabs for anybody who wants them. That's what I made that with. So there's a lot of effort when it comes to collecting things, and you do end up with a stash of things that you don't quite know what you're going to do with. Like currently I've got another pallet there stacked up waiting for use. Look, this gate was an old pallet that I found by the side of the road. So yeah, even the greenhouse was free. The neighbours, before they built the fence, didn't want it and passed it over the fence to me. So it takes time. You can't do it immediately, but you can do it if you're prepared to turn it into a fun adventure. I mean, look at the moon garden now. Doesn't it look lovely? And in there's that 50p sculpture that I got from the charity shop, a homage to the moon. So it can add so much interest to a garden, not having any budget. One of the things I absolutely love is summed up in this old swing frame, is to use things that hold memory, because there's magic already in it. Now this was the swing frame of the baby swing that all of my kids had. Again, it was picked up free. Somebody was throwing it out, so it came to me free. My babies used it for years, and then I just couldn't bear to throw it out. So I've recycled it as park fence to keep the dogs out, and we used to grow beans up it, we've grown sweet peas up it, but it's just a lovely structural element in the garden, and again it was free. A lot of these plants in here are wildflowers, but I do have in amongst it some other plants that have got a bit more structure to them, and I think a good way to see that mixing of wild plants with plants that you bought here in the lilies. All the lilies are open at the moment. There's another load of lilies to open there. There's the lilies in there about to open. I kind of like this mishmash between bought plants and wild plants. I think it's just a lovely combo. And then in my last garden video you will have seen the making of this fairy world. This was an old sink that was in the house when I moved in. Brilliant for the garden. It's got upcycled glass in there which I bought for pennies to make fairy lakes, and I can put offerings in them. This was my friend's barbecue that I saved out the skip at the front of her house. Too rotten to use as barbecue anymore. Perfect for a fairy world. You know, stones with fossils in. That was on my driveway. Just part of the concrete base of my driveway. I think creating a fairy world is just such a wonderful, fun creative activity, especially if you want to connect with Fey energy or spirit of place or flower energy. It is a place of offering to come to work with Fey energy. I just have loved making this garden. So it's just, oh, it's so fun to make a garden with all of these areas that you can do for so cheap. I mean, this sewing table, I bought that for £15 from a friend. I mean, they go for about £80. I just love it. The little fairies over this side, they were like part of that £5 haul where I got like boxes of stuff just for £5. It did cost me yacht varnish, but anything you put in the garden, you might need to buy the paint and the yacht varnish anyway. So yacht varnish is an expense I'm prepared to spend. But you know, this little seat down here was Tilly's first piano seat. Just so much memory in it all. So, can you do green witch garden witchcraft? Can you connect to the spirit of place without it costing you a fortune? Yes, and I would say it's probably even better because it sends you on an adventure, and the recycling and the upcycling is a way of really connecting and looking after Mother Earth. Everywhere I look, there's something else to say. Picked up free. This was my son's old Lego table, which he adored. I just didn't throw it away. I just use it to lift a pot up so the dogs don't destroy the pot. More trellis work free. There is just so much magic to be had in a garden that doesn't need to cost you the earth. Do you think it would be a good idea if I wound my hose in so I don't fall over it every time? Over here, I really do need to fix this wheel properly to my ancestor altar because there is a cat that walks across the top of this fence and Rupert charges at it every single time and is knocking this wheel off on repeat. So I do need to sort that. This is going to be my ancestor altar out here, the wheel that my dad gave me because he owned a bike shop to weave on when I was a teacher, the base of that idea of the wheel turning. Though I'm going to be doing some free things on there which I will share. And again, this was a story door. I just decorated it with napkins, but in my mind I told a story with the napkins. It was a healing process, this door. So again, you can do things like that. So some sort of dedicated space for working with ancestors is brilliant to do out in the garden. I mean, all of these sort of Mexican-y flags and the Mexican Frida Kahlo patterns I've painted on these are partly to do with like Day of the Dead and that idea of a celebration of the ancestors. All of this area around here and this over here is for that. The garden itself is very much about life and death, plants coming and going in that circle. That's why I've got the butterflies as well, representing that. These are free as well. Everything's free. The pots are free, the bucket planters are free, these were free. Everything's free in this garden because I just recycle and upcycle and take what people think is rubbish. You got an itch, Luna? Yeah, so look, this metalwork is from an old trampoline that was being thrown away. I've got loads of this to do something with. I picked up an umbrella from the tip last time I was up there. Don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I'm certain I'll do something. So ancestor work, honouring cycles. Like if you had got like an old bike like that somebody had thrown out or your kids had outgrown, not only has it got the memory of all that laughter of the kids using the bike, but you could do something to celebrate the wheel of the year as well. I think wheels and circles and the cycles of a garden just lend themselves so beautifully to witchcraft work. Growing things that go vertical as well, it's that connecting as above so below, the vertical planting, just that idea of spirit, it's just all there. Like another thing, I'm going to do some work on this guttering, but that's got plants beginning to grow in it. This gutter was the gutter that I would let the kids like roll cars down, or I'd block the ends and fill it with water and they'd sail boats up and down it. It's got so much magic memory held in it. It's magical, and it was a piece of gutter that I pulled out of a skip and the kids played with for years. Even bunting, I mean, the old clothes that mean something, they could be your clothes, it could be the kids' clothes. You can easily make bunting out of that, and it puts like magic and intent and meaning like into bunting. This is brought bunting, but I have thought about doing that. Like I've got prayer flags inside the greenhouse, so it's that idea of prayer flags, and you could put spellcrafts on bunting, and that could be with old clothes that mean something to you that you can't wear anymore. You could do that with it instead of throwing it away. Down here, this is, can you see this is all cracked? This is an old bird bath water fountain that somebody was throwing out. I think it was the same guy that I got the slabs from. And he also had the big pot that I planted the lavender in down there, and this was just by his bins to throw out as well because it's broken, doesn't work, but I let it fill with rainwater. Fantastic for scrying with. I mean, look at this. So it could be any bowl that doubles up as a bird bath. Again, so you've got a scrying bowl there. I know this doesn't look very nice at the moment. This is a big garden that I struggle to stay on top with. But any sort of chimney or a fire pit, just a pit in the ground for burning fires and like celebrating the Sabbats. I mean, anywhere where you can burn in the garden as well. And then in between my laurels, which are really overgrown, can you see hidden in there? Let me zoom back a bit. There is a natural arch underneath the laurels here, which is just overgrown ridiculously again. But this is an old pond that I picked up. Somebody was throwing it out completely free on Free Cycle. I am never going to stay on top of keeping a pond clean. I'm just not, and I haven't got electricity up here for a filter, but what I am going to do is stand it upright. This, guys, is the start of my grotto for one of the deities that I work with, for Mother Mary. I want to get or build or make a Mother Mary statue, and this is going to be where the grotto is. So old ponds, they just, if you stand them on their end, and they look amazing for grottos. And I have seen people throwing ponds out. This is where I got this one from. Any old chalkboards, you can actually get chalkboards quite cheap as well, but this is a chalkboard that my kids played with for years. A chalkboard in the garden, you can write intentions or you can write spells, all that magic with words. It's fantastic, and it washes away if you're using chalk. Look, I'm standing here right by this nipplewort. Isn't it just gorgeous? I mean, that's 4 foot high and it's beautiful. I wanted to show you the astilbe that's in flower at the moment. Isn't that wonderful? It's like some Dr. Seuss tree. Wonderful. I mean, that's magic in its own right. Next to, again, old childhood toys that the kids played with that can all be imbued with meaning. And look at this bindweed that's around the peony. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do a day of bindweed clearing again. I have missed 1 week of working up here because I was working in Tilly's garden 1 week, and look at it. I literally can't get through. This is 1 week of not strimming or clearing. I'm literally breaking my neck trying to get through. It's just unbelievable how fast this garden grows. And there are frogs everywhere. As I'm walking, frogs are jumping, which I was told is a link to the underworld and makes you realise that your garden is really happy and healthy to have lots of frogs. So this must be a portal because it is everywhere I turn there are frogs jumping. Yeah, and it's weeds everywhere, I know, and it's unfinished jobs, and it's probably frying people's minds looking at all these jobs to be done. But every year I claim a little bit more organisation, and me and the garden move on another step every year, don't we, Lulu? What you doing? You look guilty. Every year we get a bit further down the track, and every year it looks like this, but every year it improves a little bit. So a garden can also teach you patience and the importance of time, which I think is fantastic for witchcraft too. Lurchers in the garden too can also teach you patience. And that is before we even get on to working with the properties of plants and the meaning of flowers and sacred geometry in the garden. I mean, literally, it is a classroom out here. It is a classroom about cycles. It is a classroom about life and death. It is a classroom about natural magic. It's just wonderful. It's inspiration for creativity as well. It's everything. Yeah, I've got a garden here that's dedicated to the moon. It keeps me connected to the moon. This silver birch, the silver of the moon, I call it my magic tree. I will come out here at night and put offerings at the base of the tree. I've had a vision here of the local land spirit within my garden, came to me as a vision sitting under the tree with red threads growing out of its hands and feet into the earth. It is just the most amazing magical portal to other realms. It's wonderful. And as my zinnias grow, which all of these were grown from seed, and all of the sunflowers in that corner there, that planting of a seed and watching the first shoots come every year, every witch needs to experience spotting that first shoot of a seed that they've planted, because that, oh my gosh, that is absolutely the most magical moment in the whole of my year. I mean, here are some gosh, what are these? Are these buddleia that are coming back? No, these aren't buddleia. These look like dahlias that are coming back, perhaps from last year, which I didn't plant. They've just come back. But all this bed is full of buddleia, which I grew from a pot of dirt. Literally, there was nothing in the pot, and they all came back. Look, there's the first buddleia flower coming on there, and I've got a whole bed now of self-seeded buddleia that I just keep putting in here. This will bring all the insects, and then all of the associations of the insects and the butterflies. I mean, it's just never ending. It's a never ending circle of magic. The plants and the flowers and the seeds and the animals that brings in, and the insects, and you know, the colour associations and the shape associations and sacred geometry. Garden Arcana saw me using energies in the garden to depict the tarot, the major arcana energy in the garden. You can put associations on the garden that mean different elements of magic for you. It is just the most incredible thing for which to grow a garden, and it doesn't need to cost the earth, as I've shown. And this tree is called the magic tree because I've had all of these beads, which I've owned since the 80s, on the tree. And when the kids were little and couldn't reach, they would grab hold of these beads to shake the branch to make all the wind chimes ring. And as they did that, they would make a wish. That's why this is called the magic tree, because it was where we came to make wishes. And that was from when the kids were babies, when they could only reach this high. So magic there. A rather messy magic garden. I hope that has inspired anybody who, like me, has zero budget. You know, you can't get fancy raised planters for your pots to stop the dogs from digging, but you can go and collect some long pallets and a load of bricks that people are throwing out and make your own with broken mirrors that people are throwing out, which is what that is. That has now been in the garden, wrapping around the conservatory for probably the best part of 5 years now, and it's still going strong, and it means I can have some pots that the dogs aren't going to destroy. From my garden haul of plants, cheap plants, I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, by the way, I added up how much these plants would have cost me at full price. £47.50 full price. They ended up costing me £17.25, so a saving of just over £30. It's worth doing, guys. It's worth buying the plants that need a little bit of help and loving them back to life. It's way more fun as well, because you're immediately telling the plant that you love it and you see it just for who it is, not for how showy it is, and I love it. So go buy some sale price plants, guys. It's worth it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.